In Marvel's Avengers, there are a number of original skins that are very simple when it comes to their design. Specifically, team skin sets choose a distinct but general theme to apply to multiple skins that you can then match your entire team with. A while ago, I started coming up with lore and stories to explain what the origins of these costumes could possibly be. This practice I've lovingly started calling Lorevengers. In the previous episode, I explained my lore for the volcanic skin set, but in today's episode, I'm going to be giving my lore for the crash test team skin set. Say that 10 times fast.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another carrotscraps video, and by another, I mean the 80th. So what I'll be reading for you today is essentially an overview of lore and somewhat of a short story inspired by the crash test team skins from the Marvel's Avengers game. Like I explained in the previous episode, what I'm reading today is essentially fanfiction, so please keep in mind that nothing in this video is canon to any official Marvel story. This short story is not canon to anything, except my dreams. If you'd like, feel free to adapt this into your own headcanon, but please don't confuse this for an official Marvel story. In addition, if you like the concept of Lorevengers, feel free to write your own story or your own lore. I think it's really fun, and I think most superhero fans do this anyway, but are too embarrassed to admit it. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Of course it's silly, but it's also fun. And writing is always a great way to express yourself, especially if you have the benefit of writing about things that you already like. Anyway, I know the crash test lore is something that many of you have been waiting for, and I'm so excited to finally deliver. I think it might be a little surprising to see where I went with this one, and I tried something a little different with the storytelling. But without further ado, let's finally get into my story.
Dear Anthony Stark, it's been a long time since we've spoken, but I find during the late hours of the day recently that I wish to speak to you again, and so, instead, I choose to write to you and reminisce about the old days.
The year is 1992. The Avengers have been a team for about 3 years now, and these heroic individuals joined forces to stop local crime in California. In fact, towards the end of 1991, close to their 3rd year anniversary as a team, they prevented the entire state of California from being terraformed by an alien species. This exploit being their greatest victory to date, and putting them on the map as heroes across the world.
In the early days, we sure had a lot of fun. Oftentimes I feel bad. These new Avengers who carry our torch sure have a handful.
They were more successful than ever in December of 1992, and were trusted by their local community.
Sometimes it felt in those early days like it was too easy for us. Until it wasn't easy.
But, at this time of peace and celebration, tragedy struck.
Of all the things that attempted to stop the mighty Avengers, who would have thought a simple accident would provide the opportunity for the Avengers to stop themselves?
Tony Stark, formerly known as Iron Man, and Thor, Odin's son, the god of thunder, were walking home together one evening after a night of festivities. Unfortunately, on this cold, dark night, the two were crossing at the center of a street. Due to their carelessness, the two were struck by oncoming traffic. Indeed, it seemed as if even a god and a genius inventor couldn't avoid such common tragedies. And sadly, Tony Stark passed away because of the accident.
Of course, I think about that night often. If I were paying attention, if my wits were about myself, I could have easily stopped the car with but a pinky on my hand. But instead, my guard was down, and I lost a very dear friend.
Tony Stark may have passed in the tragic car accident, but the God of Thunder didn't come out unscathed either. Miraculously, Thor survived but lost his arm in the carnage. Some time passes, and while the individual Avengers continued fighting crime, the team became inactive out of respect for their fallen comrade.
Clint never stopped fighting the good fight after we parted ways. Perhaps the boy was happy to have the spotlight to himself for once. He did earn it after all. Now Natasha, she'd never tell us where she was going, but I knew she was helping people, and that always made me smile. Bruce channeled his passions in other ways, And I was proud when I learned he and his beast came to an understanding with one another. And I'm sure the both of them are much better for it. Maybe you wouldn't have approved of the Avengers parting ways, but it felt like the right thing to do, especially during my recovery.
After Thor's recovery was complete, he was fitted with a cybernetic enhancement, a cybernetic false arm that would help him from the day-to-day.
But those long days where I was meant to heal were some of the longest days of my entire life, and some of the loneliest, until Captain Rogers started paying me visits.
During his recovery, and admittedly a depressive state, the God of Thunder was visited by his good friend Steve Rogers.
I know you and Steve fought often. Maybe you didn't always see eye to eye, but I think the reason him and I were drawn to each other after your passing was because he felt a kinship with me. Not only did he lose a close friend, but I could feel the guilt in his voice in the early days after the team split. And there's a part of me that thinks maybe he thought I was the only one who would understand. All I can say for certain is that I appreciated his visits.
The two discussed the accident and how they could make something positive out of what happened. It was then that Thor had a simple idea. He suggested to Steve Rogers that perhaps he could tell his story to others to avoid such tragic events in the future. Steve Rogers loved the idea and suggested that the two broaden the subject matter that they would talk about and encompass safety in general. After the God of Thunder's recovery, he and Steve Rogers became public speakers and began speaking to auditoriums of adults and children about general safety. Months pass, and in July of 1993, the two were contacted by a production company. The company aligned with their personal philosophies and wanted to produce a series of VHS tapes for children and schools to educate them on safety.
Oh, and when those who made the moving pictures approached Steven and I was so excited. The two of us couldn't wait to bring our message to a new audience of people.
The two heroes agreed immediately, but when they were asked about potentially incorporating the other Avengers, they were less enthusiastic. Admittedly, they doubted that the other Avengers would be up for such a thing, but more importantly, the reason they disbanded as a team was out of respect for their friend. After some hesitation, Steve suggests that at the very least, the former members deserve to make the decision for themselves.
Now, we knew certain Avengers wouldn't want to return, especially given our new careers. And of course, I did not judge these heroes. I wanted to respect their new ways of life. But I also believed that Steven had a point. They deserve to choose for themselves whether they take this new path with us.
Some aligned perfectly with the ideologies of the project. Others decided to be a part of the production because they missed their friend. And there were those who were uncomfortable with the idea, but decided to give it a shot anyway.
Clint, bless his soul, was excited to be a part of the production. It felt as if he said yes before I even finished the question. Now, Bruce was an interesting one. He said yes immediately, but he didn't seem to like the cameras very much. If I'm being honest, I feel the only reason he agreed was so he could be close to friends again. Which, I could definitely understand. But Natasha definitely wasn't excited to be a part of this initiative at first. We always wanted to make sure to give her the option to leave at any time. After all, we only wanted her to join the team if she wanted to be there. But after some time, and with a lot of hesitance, I think she warmed up to the team. But if you thought Bruce was shy in front of the cameras, Natasha did not want to be there. Seeing her read her lines got quite the belly chuckle from me every single time. Good stuff, good stuff.
After reuniting, the team moved their old supplies into a corporate office building. During the move, they discovered blueprints and prototypes that Tony Stark had designed for a suit of armor that would pilot itself. Bruce Banner suggested the idea that they honor Tony's legacy by completing this project. After the completion of the pilotless Iron Man, the production team of the VHS tapes, who are now working directly with this new era of Avengers, suggested that the robot could be the mascot of their team. Again, there was some reluctance from the team, but in the end they agreed, and Safe Boy the Robo-Teen was born.
I will admit the robotic teenage mascot was a little difficult for me to understand, but the production team assured us it was what the kids liked, and I trusted their perspective. I still don't know how popular that robotic teenager was, but I could never get used to him hanging around the office.
With all of that, the second generation of Avengers were born, and the crash test and safety with the Avengers VHS tapes were produced and released in early 1994.
Remember, children, look both ways before you cross the street, and make sure to march your way to a crosswalk instead of crossing at the center. So says I, Thor, the god of safety. Remember, children, there's never a good reason to consume glue. Glue is for arts and crafts and making your dreams come true. So says I, Thor, the god of safety. Remember, don't eat Gamma or else become like Hulk. Although, why become like Hulk such a bad thing? When did Hulk agree to say this? Hulk does not endorse boycott of Gamma consumption?
Cut, Hulk is going off script again.
Why do cameramen cut when Hulk is on screen? Remember, children, sharpen your pencils before an exam, but don't sharpen them too much, and definitely do not sprint in the classroom while holding sharpened pencils. So says I, Thor, the god of safety. Remember, children, wearing reflectors are a great way to keep yourself safe when you're riding a bicycle, especially at night. Shiny wear Hulk, shiny outfit, bright shiny outfit. Stop cars from hitting puny humans. Hulk, safe always. Cars need shiny reflectors to protect from Hulk. Yes, so says I, the Thor, the god of safety.
The crash test and safety with the Avengers VHS tape collection was a huge success. The high-quality nature of these safety tapes and the fact that they are essentially featuring celebrities ensured their success, while educating a new generation of youngsters on safety. In fact, these tapes were so beloved that they received several sequel series. While the original series of tapes tackled road safety, future installments would focus on anti-bullying campaigns, appropriate academic behavior, and other such topics for children. They even went on to make several one-shot tapes for businesses and organizations. Tips for construction workers, nuclear power plant operators, Dunkin' Donuts employees, and even for various charities.
We spent long days filming these videos, and for myself, Captain Rogers, and Clint, it was nothing. We had a great time together. But I think Bruce and Natasha had a lot of trouble adjusting. I suppose I had more in common with that darn teenage robot after all. A ghoulish thought, to be sure. There were certain times when the production team wanted to go in a certain direction that felt like it was straying from our original intent. It was difficult to take advice from these artists. I suppose we just had to trust that they knew what the kids wanted, but we hoped that they would keep our main course on focus.
Eventually, the Avengers stopped making this kind of media. The team split up once again, but a new, younger team of Avengers, led by a superhero called Miss Marvel and accompanied by Kate Bishop, led the modern era of superhero PSA videos. But it's safe to say that the original team succeeded at the initiative that they set out to accomplish. And most importantly, they honored their best friend by educating and being role models for so many others.
In the end, I think it was good for us to take our break as a team, to reevaluate who we were. I love the time we shared as a team of celebrities on moving pictures, teaching those who would listen. And I know I'm not the only one on the team who felt that way. But most of all, I feel I carried your legacy through those videotapes. And I'm glad your legacy will be carried once more with this new team of young Avengers. I'll never forget you, Anthony Stark. I'll write you again soon. Thor, Odin's son.
So, what did you think? I hope you enjoyed the story. Now, I originally started the story off in a more comedic and humorous manner, but as I added more details to the story, I found something more serious, and I wanted to explore that serious side a little bit more. I also really enjoyed telling the story from a narration and a first-person letter. I won't change up the storytelling method every episode of Lorevengers, but I like that I get to experiment a little bit with the way I get to tell the story. In general, I really loved coming up with this story. As soon as I came up with the idea, I became like possessed and couldn't stop typing. I know the crash test skins aren't everybody's favorite, but I'm curious if the lore changes anyone's opinion on them. Also, do you have a favorite crash test Avenger in my story? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always gonna make the videos that I wanna make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. If you want to watch me play Marvel's Avengers and other video games live, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/carrotscraps. I'm also really proud to say that this weekend I was given the opportunity to interview two of the people who worked on X-Men the Animated Series. It was such a privilege to get to talk to writer Julia Leewald and series writer Eric Leewald. Anyway, if you want to check that out and other streams like it in the future, check out twitch.tv/heroes_assembled. And just the biggest thank you to Hero Mentor for giving me the opportunity. Anyway, all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are all at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Postscript. This darn robotic teenager that you helped create is a menace. I can't get a moment to myself. I swear, after we disbanded the second time, we should have deactivated him. Perhaps I'm being too rude. He's just always trying to give me safety facts, and it's... Do you know who you're speaking to? I started the safety initiative. That was me. Do not lecture the god of safety. Fool. Absolute fool.